Your top story, 16 people were arrested after a police van was petrol bombed in renewed protests outside Overvaal. This after a tense standoff between police, community members and the ANC as well as the EFF. Police are investigating the suspects who allegedly petrol bombed a stationary police vehicle. One person was injured in this incident. Earlier, the Congress of South African Students embarked on a march against the school's language policy. COSAS is demanding several drastic changes at the school. They want the removal of the school principal and the appointment of an interim head to resolve the issues. The students' organization also demands criminal charges against the police who shot at protesters. The police today had brought in the tactical response team, which is used in highly volatile situations. Racial tensions reached fever pitch on Wednesday as political parties met on the school grounds, with one parent being attacked at the school premises.
Yesterday, when the protesters tried to petrol bomb a police van, we arrested them. I understand the number is about 27 that is going to appear in court today. They will be charged with public violence as well as contravention of the Explosive Act. We'll be deploying members of the SAPS until we are satisfied that the situation is back to normal.
Meanwhile, there's a raging debate on who's to blame for the tension. Is the school management to blame for not making the effort to protect and advance diverse cultures and languages as stipulated in the SA Schools Act? Or is it the Education Department for ordering the school to admit 55 English-speaking learners and become a dual medium school at such short notice? The court ruling may be for failing to consider the South African political dynamics of excluding learners on the basis of their language, or the police service for using disproportionately excessive force, rubber bullets and stun grenades to disperse unarmed demonstrators, or political parties for visiting the concerned school only to fuel tensions in the community over the emotive language policy issue.
Yesterday, we have requested an audience, both with the management and the school, SGB. They refused. And that's why we're here in the streets. But we must be able to make it clear that we are not here to tamper with the education of the kids that are inside, and we are not going to do anything with them. We would not act in a violent way, would not harm anybody. Ours is for our own kids. That is a black child to be allowed in this school here.
My message to the principal was that, number one, it is important to acknowledge the right to protest action and the demonstrations, because it is a fundamental right, but obviously that right has to be exercised in a manner that is peaceful, that is unarmed, and that does not deny learners inside Overvaal High School the ability to learn and to exercise their right to a basic education. So there are also limitations to that right, and that has been conveyed by myself also to the demonstrators themselves. So they are very much aware of the constraints and the confines of those particular of that particular fundamental right.
And here are the reasons of a lasting solution being needed to prevent further protest. Many learners remain excluded by discriminatory language policies across South Africa. Organising alternative placement for excluded learners is not a lasting solution. Language remains a convenient excuse to exclude majority from reserved spaces. Well, joining us with the latest details now is ANN7 reporter Valerie Robinson. She joins us live from Overvaal High School in Vereniging, and she's been following the story from the beginning. Good morning to you, Valerie. Yesterday, there was a disturbing, seemed like a WhatsApp or social media message doing the rounds, calling for more people to come and protest outside of the school. What details do we have with regards to these sort of issues?
Good morning to you, Abigail, and to the viewers at home. It's very quiet this morning here outside the gates of Overvaal High School. No protesters have arrived just as yet, even though that there is a very, very heavy police presence. But yes, you are correct. There was a WhatsApp voice note making the rounds yesterday for people, Afrikaans-speaking people and parents and community members to come to the school and show their support in their own words to protect the language and their culture. But as I can show you, those people, the parents and the community, have started to gather. They were here yesterday. It's about the same amount of numbers here. If I can just show you as we pan over that way. In the distance, also being kept away from the gates of the school where we are currently, are those parents and community members that have been called out. Like I said, they were here yesterday. There were a few scuffles between the protesters and them, but mainly it was peaceful, and the police had created this no man's land between them and the protesters that were here yesterday, which avoided any altercations. There were quite a few accusations thrown towards that group, saying that they are armed, but when the police took some of the leaders of the protesters that side to show and ask them to point out anyone who they could see was armed, the protesters and the leaders could not do so. As you can see behind me, the police presence is also quite heavy still here this morning, so it's unclear what will happen. We do know yesterday that the protests only convened round about this time yesterday morning, so it could still happen later today, and it's something that we should keep monitoring as the day progresses.
Valerie, it is very unfortunate that an issue that started out with 55 learners looking for placement in school for the 2018 academic year now seems to have turned into a racial and a political issue. How did we get to this point?
Yes, that is correct. The issue at the heart of this was originally the capacity of the school, that the school simply cannot take the 55 learners, and later it became something about language, and then it steamrolled into this issue of race. On the first day of protests, speaking to the parents of the students in the school right now, they expressed a lot of anger, saying that this shouldn't be about race. It is completely incorrect to place it that way. It was about capacity as well as language later on, and there are, in their words, a lot of black students here in the school that are wanting to be taught in Afrikaans, as well as in the 55 students that were looking for space, there are quite a few white students in that number. So a lot of them expressed a lot of anger over the fact that this has become a race thing, and of course this has definitely snowballed into a political issue. We saw on the first day the EFF here, then COSAS joined later in the afternoon, then we saw ANC join later as well. So definitely this has become a political thing. We even yesterday saw some ANC members take a D8 shirt and start dancing on top of it and calling out to Musi Maimane, asking him, calling out to him, saying how should they protest, as he has been criticizing the way that these protests have been unfolding, obviously with the violence that has taken place in both the first day and yesterday late afternoon. But fortunately this seems, even though we have seen children on the balconies watching all of this unfold in the road in front of the school, fortunately it doesn't seem that there's been any incidents with the children. They have been peacefully taken out on the side gate after school, even though the protests still rage here at the front gate.
Valerie, like you mentioned, a large police presence outside Overvaal this morning. Yesterday, one of the police vehicles was petrol bombed. Just talk us through what took place.
Yes, that is correct. It was actually around about the time children were coming out of school. School had just finished. Children were being taken to the side entrance of the school when this took place. Everything seemed very calm. Quite a few of the journalists were saying they're packing up and going home. A few of the COSAS representatives were sitting under the trees eating. There were a few people still blocking the road, but things seemed to have calmed down. There were quite a few moments throughout the day where it seemed seemed that shots were going to be fired, tensions were going to be spilled over, but somehow it managed to be talked back down again. And in that moment of calm, suddenly a petrol bomb was thrown at the police vehicle that was stationary outside the gate of the school. In that moment, all chaos erupted. People started running and screaming. Police obviously then very quickly moved towards the vehicle in the area. Shots started to be fired. I personally even saw police shooting and then stopping, turning around to come back to where the incident took place, and then protesters turning around and started chasing the police. At that point, police once again turned around and started firing at those people. So it's quite a back and forth situation. After all that chaos, immediately police started taking people into custody, quite a large number, as you have said, and as the police have stated, it is up to 27 now that have been taken into custody. Yesterday, we know mostly those were COSAS protesters, and we even saw them pulling people from underneath cars who were hiding, trying to avoid being arrested. But all of those people were taken into custody and taken to the nearest police station, where their parties apparently went there in an attempt to assist them with getting bail.
Let's leave it there for now. We'll continue to check in with you throughout the morning and this afternoon to get the latest details for our viewers from outside of Overvaal. That was ANN7 reporter Valerie Robinson joining us live from Vereniging.